Hey everyone, and welcome to a special deep dive,
Mm.
just for you Vintage Car Chronicles fans.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
spent a lot of time on this show talking about, automotive legends, but
Right.
I think it's time we explore a bit of automotive mystery.
Yeah.
What happened to Saab?
Yeah, what did happen?
They were making waves for a while
You
there.
were.
Born from jets, they said,
Mm-hmm.
but then, poof, gone.
Yeah, Saab's story is definitely one for the books.
It is. Yeah.
Founded in 1937, they started out building fighter planes.
Wow.
Only after World War II did they turn their attention to cars, rolling out their first model in 1947.
Wow.
They had their devoted fans, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Drawn to their innovative designs and,
Yeah.
well, let's be honest, their quirks.
Yeah, they're quirks.
But ultimately, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's what we're here to unpack today.
Yeah, let's get into it.
We've got a whole stack of articles,
For now.
research papers,
Right.
even some firsthand accounts from Saab owners.
Very cool.
So buckle up, because we're going deep on this one.
Let's go.
From those early jet-inspired designs to the dedicated snabbery community,
Yes.
and of course the reasons behind their downfall.
Their downfall, I think what's really interesting is how Saab's aerospace background directly influenced their cars.
Yeah,
It wasn't just a marketing gimmick,
Oh,
it was baked into their DNA.
totally.
That focus on aerodynamic safety and those sometimes unusual features, it all traces back to their roots in aviation.
Right, like those born from jets ads.
Exactly.
I remember seeing those as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't just sleek lines, was it?
No.
I mean, they had some pretty groundbreaking innovations under the hood, too.
Yeah.
Stuff that we take for granted in cars today.
Absolutely. Like heated seats, for instance.
Heated seats.
Standard equipment on Saab starting in 1971.
Wow, that's early.
Makes perfect sense when you consider those long, cold Swedish winters.
Yeah.
They were all about practicality and comfort, but always with a touch of innovation.
Okay, so the heated seats, I get it. Brilliant for a Swedish car.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the ignition.
Oh,
It's next to the gear stick,
right.
not behind the steering wheel like every other car on the planet.
Yeah.
What was Saab thinking with that one?
Safety, believe it or not, that unusual placement was a world-first safety feature,
Really?
designed to reduce knee injuries in collisions.
Right.
It was revolutionary for its time.
Wow.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
They were way ahead of the curve on so many things.
So many things.
Self-repairing bumpers,
Why?
headlamp wipers and washers, even the passenger compartment air filter,
Wow.
all Saab innovations.
I feel like we could do a whole episode just on Saab's quirky features.
Oh, we could.
But let's shift gears for a minute and
Right.
talk about the cars themselves.
All right.
Where should we start in this virtual Saab museum?
Well, we have to give a nod to those early models.
Okay.
The 92, 93, 95, and 96.
Right.
They were like the foundation of the Saab brand, establishing their reputation for durability and practicality.
Right.
The 96 in particular really put Saab on the map. It was their first model to be widely exported,
Wow.
a testament to its popularity and reliability.
And speaking of popularity,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Saab 99.
The 99.
It felt like a real turning point for them, a clean break from those earlier models.
Absolutely.
Is that the one with that distinctive hockey stick side graphic?
That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
The 99 was a game changer.
Okay.
Designed by Six and Sawson.
Okay.
It introduced that iconic hockey stick graphic and,
Yeah.
of course, the wraparound windscreen inspired by their fighter jets.
Cool.
It was also one of the first mainstream cars to feature a turbocharged engine.
Wow.
The 99 Turbo in 1976.
Okay.
Solidifying Saab's reputation for performance and innovation.
The 99 Turbo.
Yeah.
Man, that must have been something else back then.
It was a special car.
Okay. So after the 99, we get the 900 right.
Yes.
And wasn't that their best-selling model?
Wow. The Saab 900 really brought them into the mainstream, especially with that iconic convertible version.
Yeah.
It perfectly captured the spirit of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it did.
It was stylish, sporty, and still distinctly Saab.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about built to last.
Okay.
There's a documented case of a 1989 Saab 900 that clocked over 1 million miles.
1 million miles.
This original engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, seriously, a
Yeah.
million miles. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's one thing for a company to say their cars are durable,
Yeah.
but to actually have proof, like, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we've got the 92, 93, 96,
Mm-hmm.
the groundbreaking 99,
Yep.
And then the iconic 900
Yeah.
that came after that.
The 9000.
The 9000.
This marked Saab's move into the luxury car market.
Okay.
And here's a fun fact for you.
Right.
It was actually developed in collaboration with Fiat.
Fiat.
Yeah.
Wow.
It shared its platform with cars like the Alfa Romeo 164 and the Lancia Thema.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not something you'd necessarily expect from a brand like Saab.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they were willing to collaborate, but always on their own terms.
It seems like it.
And then after the 9000,
Yeah.
they rounded things out with the 93 and 9-5. Right?
Exactly.
Maybe.
The 9.3 and 9-5 tried to carry the torch for Saab's tradition of practicality and innovation.
Yep.
They were good cars, no doubt. But
Mhm.
even with these later models, you could sense that things weren't quite right.
Yeah,
The challenges were starting to mount.
right.
Yeah. It's interesting, with Saab, it wasn't just about the cars themselves.
Right.
It was about the people who drove them.
Yeah,
There was a real sense of community,
right.
a shared set of values
Hmm.
that went beyond just transportation.
Totally. Like they tapped into something deeper.
Yeah.
I remember reading about this term snabbery.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean?
Snabbery, it perfectly captures that distinctive characteristic of Saab ownership.
Okay.
Think loyalty to the brand, a deep appreciation for those quirky, unconventional designs,
Yeah.
and maybe even a bit of a contrarian streak.
Okay.
Saab owners tended to be independent thinkers, people who weren't afraid to be different.
Yeah.
They weren't just buying a car.
Right.
They were buying into a whole philosophy.
It makes you wonder if that strong sense of identity, that refusal to follow the crowd,
Mm-hmm.
was part of what made them so appealing,
Mm-hmm.
but could it also have been their downfall?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, Saab's individuality was their strength.
Right.
It's what set them apart from all those cookie-cutter cars out there.
Totally.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
it's possible that their quirkiness made it harder for them to appeal to a wider audience.
It's like if we're too cool for school, you know?
Yeah,
Always pushing boundaries,
yeah,
but maybe not always connecting with the average car buyer.
exactly. They were innovators, no doubt about it.
All right.
First with heated seats, pioneers in turbocharging that crazy ignition placement.
Mhm.
But sometimes it felt like they were innovating for innovation's sake.
Right.
Not always focusing on what the market actually wanted.
Like those badge-engineered models under GM,
Oh, yeah.
the 92X and the 97X?
Yeah.
Were those just a case of GM trying to fit a square peg into a round hole?
I think those models really highlight the fundamental tension that existed between Saab and GM.
Okay.
Saab was all about unique design and engineering,
Right.
while GM was more focused on mass production and platform sharing.
Okay.
It was a recipe for disaster in some ways.
I guess when you try to force a brand like Saab to conform,
Yeah,
you risk losing the very thing that made them special in the first place.
exactly. It alienated Saab's loyal fan base,
Yeah.
and it didn't really attract new buyers.
Right.
It was
yeah.
a lose-lose situation.
So it sounds like GM's involvement was a real turning point for Saab,
Mhm.
and not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
But even before that, weren't there signs that things were starting to unravel?
There were definitely challenges along the way. They were always a relatively small company, which
Yeah.
made it hard to compete with those automotive giants.
Right.
And their commitment to innovation
Uh-huh.
sometimes meant that their cars were more expensive to produce.
But even with those challenges, they had some iconic models.
Yes, they did.
We talked about the 99 and the 900,
Yeah.
but what about those earlier cars?
Okay.
The ones that really put Saab on the map?
Those early Saabs were true originals.
Okay.
The 92 launched in 1949 was like nothing else on the road.
Right.
That aerodynamic beetle-shaped design,
Oh.
the front-wheel drive, it was revolutionary for its time.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly spacious for such a small car.
I've seen pictures of that car, and it looks like it was designed to slice through the wind.
It was, Saab engineers were obsessed with aerodynamics, and it showed in everything they did.
Wow.
The 92 had a drag coefficient that was unheard of in mass-produced vehicles at the time,
Okay.
and it laid the groundwork for all those iconic Saabs that followed.
So after the 92, they kept refining that design with models like the 93, 95, and 96.
Well, exactly. The 93 was an evolution of the 92,
Okay.
with a more powerful engine and some design tweaks.
Okay.
But it still retained that signature Saab look.
Right.
And the 95 was essentially a station wagon version of the 93,
Uh-huh.
incredibly practical and perfect for families.
Wasn't the 95 one of the first cars to feature a fold-down rear seat?
They were all about maximizing space and functionality.
Yeah.
And then there was the 96,
Right.
which was introduced in 1960.
Okay. Okay.
and remained in production for an incredible 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a testament to its enduring appeal.
It is.
What made it so special?
The 96 was the culmination of all those early Saab innovations.
Oh, okay.
It had that classic streamlined design. It was known for its rally successes.
Right.
Eric Carlson even won the Monte Carlo Rally twice in a 96.
So they were building cars that could handle both the daily commute and the rally stage.
Exactly. They were versatile, reliable, and they had that undeniable Saab character.
It's fascinating to see how they evolved over the years,
Yeah.
always pushing the boundaries while staying true to their core values. But I'm curious, what was it like for Saab during those final years leading up to the bankruptcy?
Those were tumultuous times,
Right.
filled with uncertainty and dashed hopes.
So we've seen Saab rise from its aviation roots, embrace its quirky innovation, and cultivate a truly dedicated fan base. But as we know, this story doesn't have a happy ending.
No, it doesn't.
Their final years were marked by struggles and setbacks.
Yeah.
Where do we pick up the thread?
Well, we left off with Saab under the ownership of Spyker Cars.
Striker cars.
They were a small Dutch sports car maker with big ambitions,
Okay.
led by CEO Victor Muller, who seemed genuinely passionate about reviving the brand. But passion, unfortunately, doesn't always translate into profit.
Right. They were facing an uphill battle from the start.
Yeah, they were.
Saab had been in the red for years under GM, and the global financial crisis was wreaking havoc on the entire auto industry.
Right.
What were some of the biggest hurdles they faced?
Well, I think their reliance on General Motors was a major issue.
Okay.
Even though Spyker had bought the company, they still depended on GM for engines and key components.
Right.
And GM wasn't just giving those things away.
Right.
There were strings-attached conditions that limited Spyker's freedom to maneuver.
So even though they were technically independent, they were still tethered to the GM mothership.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about the financial side of things? Were they able to secure the funding they needed to get Saab back on track?
Well, that was a constant struggle.
Okay.
They needed a massive infusion of cash to modernize their factory-developed new models and ramp up production.
Right.
They were in talks with various investors, including some Chinese companies,
Uh-huh.
that saw potential in the Saab brand.
But I remember reading that GM wasn't too keen on the idea of some of its technology falling into Chinese hands. Did that play a role in their struggles?
Absolutely. GM still had veto power over the transfer of certain Saab technologies,
Wow.
and they weren't shy about using it.
Wow.
They saw China as a rising competitor and wanted to protect their intellectual property.
Right.
So even though Spyker owned Saab,
Yeah.
GM still had a say in their fate.
It sounds like Saab was caught in a corporate tug-of-war.
Yeah, it kind of was.
How did Spyker try to navigate that?
They were scrambling.
Okay.
Deals with Chinese investors fell through.
Okay.
And they even explored a partnership with a Russian businessman.
A Russian businessman.
But that raised concerns about his business practices and was ultimately blocked by European authorities.
Wow.
It seemed like every time they found a potential lifeline, it slipped through their fingers.
It's heartbreaking to think about all those people who were rooting for Saab to make a comeback.
I know.
What was the final blow?
Yeah.
Was there one specific event that sealed their fate?
I think it was a cascade of events, really. Production at their main factory was halted in the summer of 2011 because they couldn't make payroll.
Wow.
They were burning through cash, desperately searching for a savior.
Right.
There was a brief glimmer of hope when they struck a deal with two Chinese companies, Youngman and Pengda,
Oh,
who were ready to invest.
right.
But once again, GM intervened, blocking the deal over concerns about technology transfer.
So even in their final hour, they couldn't escape GM's shadow.
Yeah, you could say that.
It's a point of contention to this day.
Yeah.
Some argue that GM was justified in protecting their interests, while others believe they could have been more flexible and allowed Saab a chance to survive.
Right.
It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, but it's hard to imagine a scenario where GM would willingly hand over valuable technology to a potential rival.
True. And without GM's blessing, Saab was doomed.
Yeah.
On December 19, 2011,
Okay.
they officially filed for bankruptcy, bringing an end to one of the most innovative and unique car companies the world had ever seen.
It's a tragic end to a truly fascinating story.
It is.
But there was a bit of an afterlife, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a company called NEVS that tried to revive the Saab name?
There was NEVS, which stands for National Electric Vehicle. Sweden
Okay.
acquired Saab's assets in 2012.
Wow.
They had this vision of building electric vehicles
Right.
based on the Saab 9.3 platform.
Right.
It seemed like a fitting way to carry on Saab's legacy of innovation.
So a phoenix rising from the ashes, but with an electric twist?
Exactly.
Did it work?
Well, they did manage to get an electric version of the 9.3 into production in 2013.
Okay.
But they were plagued by financial problems
Oh, no.
and legal battles over the use of the Saab name.
Really?
Ultimately, Saab AB, the aerospace company that still owned the rights to the name,
Right.
revoked NEVS's license to use it.
Wow. So there were electric Saabs rolling off the assembly line?
Yeah.
But they couldn't actually be called Saabs.
Nope.
Talk about a cruel twist of fate.
It really was, and in a way, it marked the definitive end of an era. NEVS is still around today, developing electric vehicle technology,
Okay.
but they're doing it under their own name.
It's a bittersweet ending to a story that was filled with so much promise and innovation.
It really is.
Saab may be gone, but they left behind a legacy that continues to inspire car enthusiasts today.
Absolutely. They were pioneers in safety, aerodynamics, and turbocharging.
Yeah.
They dared to be different, and they never lost sight of what made a Saab a Saab.
Well said, and who knows,
Yeah.
maybe someday in some form, the spirit of Saab will take flight once again.
I'd like to think so.
Well, a huge thank you to all of you Vintage Car Chronicles fans for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Saab.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a wild ride if you're craving more automotive adventures. Don't forget to check out the latest episode of Vintage Car Chronicles,
Yes.
released daily on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, and YouTube.
All the places.
Until next time, keep those engines revving and those wheels turning,